Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards, with your host, Mel Blackmore.
Hello and welcome to the ISO Show. Regular listeners may be aware that I'm not the usual host. I'm Steph Churchman and I'm the Communications Manager here at Blackmores. I'm usually the one behind the scenes editing and publishing the podcasts, but I'm stepping in for Mel this week as she's taking a break. And I'm not alone today. I'm joined by Sarah Ball, and she's an ISologist here at Blackmores. And we're going to be talking about one of our game plans available on the ISology Hub. Sarah's actually been on a few of our previous episodes, so it's great to have you back again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steph. It's great to be back.
Great. Now, to give any new listeners a bit of context, the ISology Hub is our online membership site that includes a full ISO 14001 roadmap to help you create and launch your own bespoke environmental management system. In addition to that, there's a whole library of ISO-related training, tutorials, and templates designed to take you from zero to hero in ISO standards. We're going to be focusing on one particular element of the Hub over the next few episodes, and that is our Engagement Amplifier Gameplan. Sarah created this game plan in addition to a lot of our other content on the Hub. In fact, the Hub wouldn't actually exist without her and all the hard work that she does with organising content and keeping the Hub's development ticking. We've been the main duo behind the Hub since its conception a few years back, so it's nice to be able to highlight some of the great content available to all of you. So jumping straight into it, Sarah, can you explain what the Engagement Amplifier Game Plan is and what it aims to address?
Yeah, of course, Steph. So the Engagement Amplifier, like all our game plans in the ISology Hub, is really an action plan. It's something you can follow to transform an aspect of your management system. In this case, we're looking to increase engagement from across the business and your key stakeholders with your management system. And it's really common after a period of time for management systems to kind of fade into the background a little bit. When you first implement a management system, there's a lot of focus on it. There's quite a bit of a buzz about it. It's new and exciting, and everyone knows how important it is to the business. If nothing else, simply by the amount of resources that are being thrown at implementing it in the first place, and the regular updates that are being shared. But over time, a management system kind of becomes part of the everyday. It's part of the background of your business, and that's great. You know, we want it to be part of the everyday, but we don't want it to become forgotten in amongst everything else that we're doing. So as other projects become the focus, you can find that engagement levels are going to drop from the wider business especially, and it typically will fall to a core team of people to kind of keep the management system updated and ensure that the audits are happening. But in the wider business, they just know it's there, but they're not really engaging with it in any proactive way. And there is a risk when you have this lack of engagement that the management system is going to begin to stagnate a bit. It's no longer going to be driving your business forward, which is why you implemented it in the first place. If you've only got a small group of people proactively involved in it, you will miss out on some of those ideas and insights from the rest of the business, and you kind of lose the big picture a little bit. Commonly you'll find that changes start to happen in silos without really considering the impact on other areas of the business, and without considering the impact on the management system as well. And you find that you're kind of constantly trying to chase to keep up to date with what's happening in the business, rather than the management system being that driving force behind the change. So in reinvigorating that engagement level is really crucial for any business, and the game plan walks you through the steps to assess what the level of engagement is now, where you want it to be, crucially, and then how you're going to get there.
Okay, great. So who would you say this game plan would be good for?
Really, it's good for any company with a management system in place, and really for any point in the maturity of that management system as well. Certainly the very first part of the game plan, where you're going to determine what your engagement goal is and what level of engagement you currently have, that's useful for anyone to use, because then you can decide if there's a gap between your desired level of engagement and what you have. That's when the rest of the game plan comes into place. So I would suggest, if you're responsible for a management system, you should plan in sort of periodic assessments of what engagement level you have, and this game plan then is something that you could come back to time and time again.
Okay then. Okay, so diving straight into the actual game plan itself, can you briefly go over what would be involved in the first few steps? Because I know we've broken it down into steps, so we'll go over the first three, shall we, in this episode?
Yeah, sure. So there are 7 steps overall in the game plan. And as I mentioned, the first step is to assess. So this is where you're going to be getting a good overview of what engagement looks like, what you're trying to achieve, why it's important to measure, and then importantly, how you can measure the engagement you have. We provide a workbook which you can download, and members can complete this as they work through the stages of the game plan. So in that very first step, you're working out where are we now and where do we want to get to, basically. Following on from that, in step 2, it's all about myth busting. And the reason this is important is because a common cause for a lack of engagement is really a lack of understanding about what the management system is and how people should engage with it. So if you were in the business when the management system was first implemented, you'd have received loads of information about why it's important and how you're going to engage with it, and you'll have had a lot of updates about what's happening. After the initial implementation, typically what you'll get is an induction in your first week. And we all know what that induction phase is like in a company. You're getting so much information thrown at you that you're not necessarily going to remember the detail. And that's where people can kind of go, I know there is something, there is a management system, I've heard of it, but they don't really know what it is or how they're going to engage with it. So that's why this myth busting step is really important in the game plan. So what we do in that step is we explain what some of those common myths are and what the reality is, so that members can then learn how to address these myths in their own business. So there's an activity in there to analyse the impact of the common myths on the member's own organisation, and then how they can plan to challenge those myths as well. A bit of myth busting. And then the final activity of that section is to understand and analyse the benefits of the management system for your business as well, because it's important, as well as addressing the myths, to really keep highlighting what the management actually brings to your business and why it's such an important part of how you manage your day-to-day activities. So that's the step 2, and then we go on to step 3, which is about leadership. And this is really key, as the approach of the leadership team to the management system really is one of those biggest factors in the level of engagement that you're going to get. As in all things in a business, leadership sort of set the tone of what the organisation's culture is, and they really have a very important role in embedding the management system into daily operations and aligning it to the strategy and vision. Ultimately, if the leadership team are behind it, then everyone else will understand why it's important. They'll be given capacity within their working day to engage with the management system, and that's really important. So within this step, there are activities for the leadership team to complete an assessment to define how the management system is going to support their strategic goals. So we actually want them to get involved in the game plan at this stage, as well as getting involved in the management system. There are also really practical tips in there on how leadership can show their commitment to the management system and promote engagement with the management system. And as this is a requirement of most ISO standards, it's a really important resource for any member to use.
Okay, then great. All right, I think we'll leave covering the first 3 steps now, and we'll do the rest of it in the next episode. So stay tuned, everyone, because we will be covering the rest. But I do have one more question. How long do you think it would take someone to action this game plan?
Wow, okay, so that's going to vary a lot depending on how much time you have available to dedicate to it and how many people you want to get involved. So, as with all things management system, the more the merrier, I always say. Get everyone involved as you can. So it's certainly not intended to be done in a day or even a week. You know, this is not supposed to be a very quick thing to do, because you will need time within each step to engage with other people, to get feedback, to analyse information, just to really sit and think about where your business is now in terms of its management system engagement. So I would suggest at least a month, but potentially longer, depending on other priorities. The important thing is not to rush it. So it's far better for it to take longer because each step has been really considered, rather than to complete this quickly and then not get the full benefit from it. So I would say, yeah, put aside a bit of time.
Great. Well, thanks for giving us an introduction to the game plan. I think that's all we have time for today, but make sure you keep an eye out for the next episode, where Sarah will be going back through the other steps involved in the game plan, so 4 through 7. As a quick reminder, we're also offering a buy one get one free deal on ISology Hub memberships, which is a saving of £1,200 if you do go ahead with that. So if you'd like to book a demo with us to have a full tour of the system, you can get in contact with us via our website, www.blackmoresuk.com. Also, we'd really appreciate if you took the time to subscribe and leave us a review on your preferred media player, as this really does help us to reach a wider audience. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next ISO show.
Looking to use